Alright. Finally loaded. So I'm working on this guy. Oh, I should have actually uploaded it to the cloud so I could have enough space, so it might get cut short, but I'm gonna try not to. Alright. I believe that was it for this frame. Okay. Yeah. Might be able to make the hand somewhat clear, but it's kind of a smear. Alright. Oop. Somehow got an extra line in there, probably from zooming in. Alright. So, obviously I'm not going to stick to only this, because, you know, I'm not trying to do that routine, but this girl kind of moves like I want Rose to move, so I'm using her routine as a good reference for now, and it's going to be a combination of similar videos, including transformations. Oddly enough, her thing is a hula hoop. So basically what I did was I traced the pink line, was tracing the middle of the hula hoop, and then adjusting whenever it didn't make any sense. But so far, the result looks like this. Alright. And then here's where I'm going to go from the beginning of the gesture. I generally have ended up with some rules, like in her case, the jawline's pretty much always a straight line. And that's been helping a lot. Because it's pretty sharp jawline. And then looks like this is more like an S shape kind of deal. So as you can see, that's way more straight than I intended, so that's why we practiced the line art. That's not quite making one S all the way down, so I'm gonna go as far as I can with that. And then do that. And obviously you can see it doesn't follow the lines exactly, because the point is how the movement is in there. That's why you really shouldn't trace over most gestures. You should do it otherwise, because the point of doing it quickly is so that you get the, that angle needs to be sharper. So that you get the idea of the movement and not get focused on the, like all the little bumps and stuff you see. Right. Which even then, once you know that, it's still hard to ignore. Like, that might have been a little overkill. I might not have needed to lift that up. But that's there. This one's definitely a C line. So there you go. And really sharp there. C line, straight line. So the idea is that you're limited to S curves, C's, and straight lines as well, so that you don't, like, overdo it. There's something called rotoscoping as well, which is a lot more like tracing over lines. But I feel like that's probably too advanced, because the problem with that is, obviously this is not the same body shape as Rose's. So it's not gonna have the same proportions. That needs a little bit. Nah, that was fine. What do you think of that one? That one was right. That was straight line. It's fine. part of me wants to kind of curve that a little. Nah, I am going to curve it a little.
Saturn needs to brush teeth. Take amoxicillin and use rinse.
They're not here.
Saturn needs to brush teeth. Take amoxicillin and use rinse.
Who's Teat? I'm kidding. Oi. Okay. And then I do want to show that, but I'm specifically closing that one because that one's around a hoop, which means it'll be around the ribbon one that Rose uses. Whew. And like you can see, like this is wide line art is the way it is. And normally, if you do want to make a gesture, you evolve from stick figures from to like basic shapes. I am still working on that, honestly, but I'm also having a lot of luck anyway, despite that fact. When I do make characters, currently having issues on perspective, but yeah. Yeah, this one's sharper. Like, this feels like a straighter line. And you can see that there's actually a curve there, but that's not the point, because that's something you can see after a second look. The idea is, what does your eye see first? What does it feel like it is? And that's why a lot of them will, like I said, do a speed run. But be careful it's not your finger doing whatever the fuck it wants. Which is what that one's doing, and wants to follow the line. But that's not what the line looks like. The line looks like that. Alright. This, however, is a pretty dramatic C. There we go. Boxy hand. Weirdly cylindrical hand. With a little bit of a curve. And if you can over-exaggerate it, then that's even better, actually. Because in 2D, you cannot see what you can see in 3D. It's better to over-exaggerate it. Because the bumps and stuff are not going to magically appear. And it's actually better to over-exaggerate instead. Alright, I'm gonna put that random line accidentally. There we go. Okay. The cool thing about this is that when you're doing this, you can actually kind of see what's about to happen. Like, it kind of feels like she's probably about to turn, nope. Not always the case, you know? Oh, I got something on Discord. Hold on. That's important, because that's where my team is. Oh. That's a whole different issue. That is the the dude I did not mean to actually add to my team, and is still not dudette. The girl I decided to add to the girl I accidentally added to my team, and I did not mean to. So she's deciding whether she's staying or not. And I don't know how to tell my team that that's not a new team member. Or I guess it could be, but we don't know that yet. So, boop. They're just being nice. Alright. I need to over-exaggerate it a little. Am I still recording? Okay, good. There we go. Actually, I feel like, if anything, that should be the case. It needs a little bit more bend. Not a sharp bend though, so no. There we go. Like a soft bend. Okay. Sometimes I draw the hip line, sometimes I don't, because it kind of feels like the leg kind of almost is moving inward. I don't know how to describe that, but like there's certain situations you need it for sure. I'm not sure you need it every time. For gestures, at least. But one thing I do know is that you do need gestures before you need anatomy, and I definitely did that a little bit backwards, as do most people. But it's better to get, it's genuinely better to get gestures first, because you can draw a super perfect, super autonomous, eventually I'll get that word, anatomically correct drawing, and it'll still look like crap, because people are not stiff. Even when you're standing still, you're still standing in some sort of motion and distributing weight in an uneven way. So that's why you get super stiff anytime you try to move your character even a little bit. It looks almost robotic because you need to draw the movement first, even if that person is standing still. Like obviously in this case, this is a still picture of an actual movement, so that's a little easier to tell. But it's the case even if somebody's like standing with the weight on their legs, weight on one leg, that's still a gesture and still needs a gesture first. Hi. And then, and don't get me wrong, the anatomy does help. It's still necessary. But you're not going to get it actually anatomically correct because, well, I mean, it depends on the style. Like, if you're super realistic, sure, maybe. But in my case, I'm making an anime style. So the mannequin is not necessarily, the mannequin that you draw is not necessarily going to be anatomically correct. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen an anatomically correct mannequin for now that I studied it for anime. It's usually instead, even every style I've seen actually, one of the biggest mistakes, and I think it helps a ton to know this, is that there is no elbow bone. Like, there's bones within your elbow, but there is no one singular circular joint. And in every mannequin you ever see, especially the toy ones that are used for reference, is that there is one. Those don't actually exist. Being aware of that helps, but the reason it's simplified into that is because it's just easier to see a joint that way. Hui! And it does genuinely look like that from the outside. Like, you can see where there should be an elbow joint, but it doesn't actually exist. That's probably, I'll double check it just in case it's important, but that's probably just somebody waving hi at the supposed new member. Yep. Okay. Now this one, I absolutely think it's important that the hips are in there because she's kind of twisting. Alright. Yeah. And most of that weight's gonna be obvious on this side. So there you go. Ah, that's way further than I meant. And again, that's why you do what I in art. Ba-dump. There we go. And this one's a very straightforward straight line, but my brain wants to follow all the curves. Do not listen to the brain that wants to follow all the curves. There we go. Curves are not necessarily your friend. Okay. Sometimes I feel like I need to go back and watch it again just to make sure, because I'm not necessarily confident about the last movements until I see it actually in action. I'm like, oh, okay, now that actually does look right. Yeah. Like, she feels like she's about to leap. Alright. Not even a little bit correct. She's actually stepping back here, it looks like. Okay. And then definitely in this curve. Little. Other one is if it's not like a hip movement, that it's not necessarily the hips themselves are off, it's just it makes more sense for the hip there. There we go. The shoulders, I quickly found out, are pretty much always involved in this specific sport. Like, just are extremely important. More like a triangle. Ah. Definitely straight line there. I also have onion skin on so that it's easier to see the previous movement. Dun-dun. Which is a little bit more... Right now it's more like an educational thing. Like getting the idea of those movements in your head while you watch somebody as a reference. But it's more important when you're like at the final stages and making sure the movement makes sense and the features are the same. You know? Ba-dump. Eh. Maybe it's better to... I want to follow the weight where I'm going here, but I think the line of action's better here. That is, if I can follow it. Again, please, if someone in the comment knows any really good exercises for C curves, my gosh, do I need them? Because right now, all I got is just random practices for C curves, and that's not very helpful. I do actually want, yeah. There we go. I am gonna go ahead and make that a little more exact. Losing straight line confidence. There we go. That's better. Okay. I do not see the other hand at all. Sometimes I'll try to guess where it is. But yeah. I can probably guess where this is, which is most likely something along those lines. Yeah. Ooh, this is a great shot. This is probably a really good time for her to throw the ribbon since she's looks like she's throwing the hula hoop. I'm taking note of that in my head because the hula hoop is the stand-in for the ribbon lawn later. Seems like I've been recording a while. I'm surprised it's still going, but happy. Okay. That's what that feels like, and then this is what that feels like. Split the hips there. Almost box right there. Straight line here. Open palm, it looks like. Thankfully, she has very standout shoulder pads, so I know exactly where the shoulders are. Those, probably a little more like that. There we go. We'll check how it comes across.